To allow communication across clusters, we need to have a common root CA used to generate the certificates of the different workloads. By default, when you deploy the Istio control plane, the cluster is going to auto-generate a CA certificate, which it's going to use to sign the certificate for the local workloads. And the second cluster here with the workloads are going to do the very same. So these CA certificates have nothing to do with one another, and in actuality, that prevents these workloads from being able to communicate across these clusters. So you need to have this common root CA or intermediate CA used to generate the intermediate CA of each cluster. That is then going to be used to generate the workload certificates. You can do that manually by creating all these certificates and distributing these certificates in the different clusters by creating the different secrets. In Gloo Mesh, we have this ability to automate this process using multiple different architectures, while also providing the ability to rotate these certificates. Here, what we're going to do first is to look at what we have right now. If I'm on cluster 1, if I send a request from the review service to the rating service, then I can take a look at the certificate that is going to be presented by the target service. And then you can see here the certificate of the workload, and this is the CA certificate that has been auto-generated basically for this cluster. Now, if I run this same command over on this second cluster for the reviews on the second cluster, going to the rating service on the second cluster, I will see that the certificates are different. The CA certificate that you see in one of the clusters, or cluster 1, the last line starts with RVRUL. The second cluster doesn't have this, so the cluster 2 has nothing that will has nothing. Effectively, that'll prevent the communication between the clusters. So what we'll have to do here is create this root trust policy, and we say we want this root CA to be auto-generated, so that we want to restart the pods automatically so that they start to use the new certificates. It's just like avoiding waiting for these pods to request the new certificate to the control plane. Obviously, in production, you're not going to enable this auto restart, and you're not going to use an auto-generated certificate. You are going to provide the certificate as a secret, or you could use Gloo platform integration with multiple different cloud providers to get certificates in various ways. So I'm creating this policy here, and if I go to the first cluster, I can see there is a new secret that's already created. This is known as the CA certs. So as soon as the Istio control plane sees that there is a CA cert, it's going to use this secret instead of the Istio CA cert secrets. There are options that you can set in Istio so that it gets the new secrets used even without having to restart Istio-D. But in our case, we don't really care about it because we said this is a variable to restart automatically all of these services. So if we look at this right now, we can see that all of these different services are actually being restarted right now. If I go back here, it's a little bit like explaining the way it works. So basically, there is a CSR that is created by the agent, a certificate signing request that is created by the agents to request the intermediate certificate for the local cluster. Then it's going to store this intermediate CA as a secret. Now that we have this, you can look at the CA secret in more details. But what we want to see is that now if I initiate the same request that I had initiated at the beginning, sending a request from the review service to the rating service, I can now see that I have more certificates. I have the workload certificates. I have the intermediate certificates that is shown once. But scrolling further, we can see the root certificate is shown twice. You see, here is on the last line, it's starting with 80U. And if I look at the second cluster, and again, if I decide to send another request again from the review service over to the rating service on the other cluster, I will see on that last line 80U start at the starting. Now, they're using different intermediate certificates, but they are issued from the same root CA. So this cross-cluster communication will be possible. What you can do is that you can also get these certificates stored in the file, and then by decrypting any of these certificates with any tool, you should be able to see some information about the workload itself. So basically, the certificate is the one created by the rating service that will allow the rating service to prove its identity to other services. We use the SPIFFE ID and can see that in that SPIFFE ID we have a cluster name, the namespace, the service account, and because of that it gives a unique identity for each service account globally. We have one service that is called InMesh, and it's not part of any workspace, so it's not going to be restarted automatically. And at the end of this video, that's why I'm going to go ahead and restart this service.